Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Edgeverse TechCast. This is your go-to place for everything NXP software tools and enablement across NXP's processors and microcontrollers. I'm one of your co-hosts, Kyle Dando, and today we're diving into a topic our listeners have been requesting, and that's talking a little bit more about how we're connecting NXP devices to the cloud.
And I'm Bridgette Stone, your other co-host. We've got a fun one today because we're talking about how developers can take an NXP Bluetooth product and actually get it communicating with cloud services without spending months building all that infrastructure from scratch.
And to be clear, everyone, Bridgette just said Bluetooth product, and that was not a mistake. I mean, maybe some of you might have assumed she meant to say Wi-Fi or cellular, your typical ways to connect to the cloud. But if you have ever tried to enable a Bluetooth device to stream data to the cloud, I would stick around for this episode. To help us break it down, we've invited two subject matter experts from Golioth. They're a trusted partner of NXP's, and they specialize in cloud services for embedded devices. We're joined by CEO Jonathan Beri, and he's a longtime embedded engineer. And we're also joined by the head of developer relations and hardware, Chris Gammel. Jonathan, Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, good to be here.
All right, I'm going to kick us off with an easy question. And Jonathan, this is for you. It's very exciting to have a CEO with us today. Thanks for making the time. I'm sure you've explained Golioth 1,000 times, but could you give our listeners the version that makes sense to both engineers and your grandparents? How would you describe who Golioth is and what you do?
Yeah, well, thanks for having us again. And, long-time listener, first-time caller, as they say. I'll take two stabs at this because, grandparents and engineers don't usually talk the same. When I talk to a business leader or someone at a cocktail party or grandparents, I usually say Golioth is a technology company that helps manufacturers connect their machines to the internet so they can understand what they do, how they perform, and ultimately improve their business with data. And I usually get a couple nods. But when I talk to engineers, we kind of fit in this category of IoT middleware. So we're the trusted partner who helps your devices you've been working on connect securely to the cloud, get data and software up and down from those devices to integrate into your product. But my favorite description for engineers is, I've heard this from someone, Golioth is your serial port to the cloud.
That's excellent. All right, well, thanks, Jonathan. That was perfect. Now, Chris, on the other hand, you spend a lot of time working directly with semiconductor partners like NXP, and you also work directly...
Like you, Kyle. I get to work with you, which is great.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure I'm one of your favorites.
Because you are, yeah.
Now, you've been championing recently, there's been a lot of posts, blogs, and information on Golioth's Bluetooth to cloud support. Can you share how that journey started? And what did it take for Golioth to help all these Bluetooth devices reliably talk up to the cloud?
Sure, yeah. Bluetooth to cloud is now called Golioth Connectivity, and it's kind of a broader thing that Golioth's doing. Basically, we already have been really good at connecting devices to the cloud, and that for a long time, that has been what we call directly connected devices. So playing within the Zephyr ecosystem, on any given day, I might be connecting a cellular device or an Ethernet device or a Wi-Fi device to the cloud using our firmware SDK. But about 2 years ago, we started looking at kind of the things that don't have an IP address, aren't directly connected to the cloud, and how we can enable those as well. And so the first one we went after was Bluetooth, and that's really our biggest focus right now. It is in the device space, is enabling a lot of the Bluetooth devices that are out there. When you have a device that doesn't have an IP address, there's a couple different methods you can go with, but the one that we came up with is called Pouch. And Pouch is a way that you can, at the application level, wrap up your data in end-to-end encryption from the Bluetooth device up to the cloud. And then we have some standard implementations that make it easy to transit that data from a Bluetooth device through a gateway up to the cloud. Actually, one of our favorites is the Freedom RW612. That's basically my go-to, our team's go-to for gateways. It's just this super powerful, super quick platform to get up and going. We actually have some pre-compiled binaries for that gateway. And then we've been sharing a bunch of demos, working on other things like the MCX W71 and getting that enabled on Bluetooth as well, so that now the MCX W71 can get downlink data, so you can send a setting down to a Bluetooth device. The demo that Kyle and I have been working on is actually getting just a BME 280, which is a temperature, pressure, and humidity sensor, doing time series data going up to the cloud. and doing OTA updates from the get-go. Basically being able to upload a new image into the Goliath console, marking a device as being ready for a firmware update. And because of the stuff that's inside our Pouch SDK that's running on that MCXW71, it basically talks back through the gateway up to the cloud and says, hey, I'm ready for an update. And then you just start seeing firmware packets come down to the device, and it uses MCU boot to reboot into a new image. And it's pretty magical. And this is in addition to the stuff we've done in the past as well. For a long time, we've had the RT1062 and 1064. That was our go-to Ethernet platform as well previously. And that's obviously a very, very powerful machine as well. All of those running Zephyr, and the Zephyr support from NXP has been crucial in that way.
Okay, Chris. So you mentioned Pouch. I know you get to work with Kyle all the time. We don't get to collaborate as often, and Pouch is new for me. Can you give our listeners that may also be hearing Pouch for the first time what it is and what problem it solves?
Sure. Yeah. So imagine you have a Bluetooth packet. Normally, you have a Bluetooth device that needs to talk to another device. And the traditional way of doing that would be a Bluetooth device connecting to maybe a Linux class gateway, talking over Bluetooth, and that data goes to that Linux class gateway device. And then that data has to be retransmitted up to the cloud if it wanted to go up to the cloud. Well, Pouch in this scenario, the reason we call it Pouch is because it's a set of headers and some information around the encryption of the data that's contained within it. And we kind of wrap it up in this little pouch, and then we hand it along like we're sending it in the mail, perhaps. The mail carrier in this case would be the gateway, and the gateway is transiting that up to the cloud. The reason Pouch is important is because if you have a Bluetooth device that has an encryption key, it has a certificate basically that allows it to encrypt data that the cloud can understand, it needs to be able to hand that data along and to a service, which is the edge of the Goliath cloud, that knows that the Pouch packet has transited through a known gateway that's on the same project. So in this case, if it was the Freedom RW612 that's on the same project as the MCXW71, those are on the same project. The certificate is valid. The gateway is allowed to be on the project. That when the Pouch packet arrives at the cloud has the root CA that also lets the cloud know that the encryption and the packet that's come through is allowed from that device and from that project.
Yeah, I've been spending a lot of time with Pouch and with the certificates, so I appreciate your explanation of it. Hopefully, if you're interested in learning more about the Pouch, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the enablement in just a bit. But before we jump into that, either one of you, we've known each other for a couple of years. We bounce into each other at shows where we're both engaging customers, and it always seems to be centered around Zephyr. I tell everyone, if you need someone to help you with Zephyr and understanding the benefits and really get a project up and running, that the team at Goliath, you guys are top notch. So can you talk about how you found Zephyr to be a great platform for your company and how maybe there's some benefits in it that you've seen help customers and your own software solutions be deployed?
Yeah, we joined Zephyr really early on in the company's history. And part of it was, the initial promise of cross-platform, multiple vendors all being supported, but it was also pretty early. Flash forward to where we are now, right? And enablement from the vendors is now amazing. Like you talked about Zephyr a bunch on the podcast and how not just a bring up of the NXP MCU line, but all the peripherals and the tool chain and the IDE and the app code hub. It is certainly now a first-class enablement. I like to say that Zephyr's batteries included, because it's a lot more than just the NXP parts of being available and getting you to Blinky. It's the networking stacks, it's the sensor drivers and frameworks, it's the visualization with touchscreens and interfaces, and it continues to grow and grow. And so from our part of the ecosystem, right, we're not an OS company, we're not a device driver company, and so we're able to bring up Goliath on new NXP platforms very, very quickly. So when a customer comes to us say, hey, we want to use this next gen Bluetooth platform, for example, if it's in Zephyr, we're talking about an afternoon. And so that really helps us service more and more developers who want to use NXP or anyone else with Zephyr. It also helps our ability to build reference designs and support customers in their implementation from bringing all those pieces together. Now it's the point of we'll be on a call and ask someone, is it not Zephyr? Like explain us to why you wouldn't use Zephyr, or they're finding us because they're saying, hey, we've picked Zephyr, we want to work with Goliath. So it's been a real benefit for us. And as it's matured, just brings a lot of credibility from a solutions perspective. I think about working with NXP, and we mentioned we've worked for years now. It means that when we get the email saying, hey, we've enabled a new platform on Zephyr, we can say, great, now we can go take this to production. So it really helps us just move faster, and both us and our end customers, developers, ultimately build better products, which is pretty exciting.
You're benefiting from the bring up of all the different platforms. Your blog, you talk about the different suppliers. Well, if there's a problem with Zephyr with any of those bring ups, it usually makes its way to avoid that issue with an NXP bring up. You just get that broad support channel, and you're not dependent on a single supplier, or like you said, you have to port your example from one supplier's HAL to another supplier's HAL. You're using an open standard HAL that allows you guys to go in, regardless of the customer's alignment, and quickly get up and running. So thanks for mirroring what we've said over the past. But yeah, we love Zephyr too.
I love the batteries included statement. I might have to use that, but I'll give you credit, Jonathan. So, Chris, I know you've been working with Kyle on getting a full Bluetooth to cloud Zephyr example into the NXP application code hub. Can you walk our listeners through how to get started with it? What do they get in the example and what the setup looks like?
Sure. Well, first off, I should say I really love the Freedom boards. Jonathan had a really great post about it on LinkedIn of just like how we've been sleeping on these boards, but they're like affordable and powerful and just well supported. And yeah, so they've been a standard for us. So get an MCXW71 Freedom board and then an RW612 Freedom board. I think those two boards together cost less than most of the other dev boards I have in my lab. And then we have some example code in there to work with the Click ecosystem, which is the microelectronica header standard. So there's a weather click, it's called, that has that BME 280 on it. Plug the BME 280 into the MCXW71 and then open up application code hub. Then basically you'll be able to start a new project, pull in the reference code, build it using the example repository. You'll then have to download a binary onto the RW612 to make it into a gateway. Then basically the two wake up every 20 seconds. The MCXW71 will start advertising that it has data available. It will then do uplink and then downlink. Then you can do other things like the OTA. You can turn an LED on and off, and you can see all the data on the Goliath console. That's console.goliath.io if you wanted to go see that and actually start controlling your hardware, seeing the data output, doing things like pipelines as well. Pipelines are how data flowing through Goliath, like time series data you might have from a weather sensor like the BME 280. You could send that to our internal service like LightDB Stream, which is our time series database, or you can stream it right out to your Azure, AWS, other PubSub instances and databases. Basically, we have a wide range of cloud-side logic that makes it super easy, so you don't have to do a lot of the software type things. You can just point it at the destination you need, and you're off and running, which is really powerful.
I like how easy you make it sound and explain it, that even me as a Marcom individual and not an engineer could plug in and get started quite quickly.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, there is a little process, and we've documented it all. With the README, we've taken a step-by-step approach. You guys have provided a lot of blogs with great information about certificate wrapping and the pouch technology. So as people go through this step-by-step procedure, they have reference material to better understand what they're doing. But in the end, as Bridgette said, if you follow the instructions in the README, we are pretty confident that all of you will be able to take those two boards, connect to the cloud, and fully evaluate the Golioth and NXP solution.
You know, you look at like how the RW612 Freedom board has a click header as well. After you're done trying out the Bluetooth thing, you can just move that sensor right over to the RW612, use the Goliath firmware SDK, and do the same thing connecting through Wi-Fi or Ethernet, and basically showing the variety of ways that these IoT devices connect up to the cloud.
Excellent.
One other thing I wanted to mention just around capabilities and the way Bluetooth devices are working. One thing that we see a lot of embedded engineers thinking about, worrying about, just planning for is the coming needs around the Cyber Resilience Act, the CRA. So this is a great starter project to get you up and going. Like I said, we have OTA, we have monitoring, we have the ability to send data up and down your Bluetooth devices. But a lot of it can live alongside maybe a GAT message that might be talking directly to a phone. One thing I always point out as well is the fact that you can have pouch, and you can have the Goliath capabilities live alongside your other Bluetooth applications. So if you had, say, a heart rate monitor that's talking to a Bluetooth app with a custom GAT message or even one of the standard GAT messages, the Goliath GAT profiles can live alongside it, and you can just start to have a gateway-based implementation that might give you additional access. It might give you firmware updates. You can do all that alongside your other capabilities you need to be doing with your device. So just thinking about, obviously, we're talking about a starter example here, but thinking about Goliath as a capability and an enhancement for people that are looking for Cyber Resilience Act compatibility and help as they move forward, getting those projects out into the world.
All right. Well, another benefit that we mentioned is that this is a great opportunity for people to evaluate Zephyr, and the NXP Visual Studio Code environment makes it real easy. So not only will you be exploring the Goliath solution, but you'll be able to understand a little bit more about Zephyr and the benefits that it may provide you and your company. To summarize, if any of you are building a product with Bluetooth, you should check out Goliath's connectivity solution. It's definitely something that your company may want to take advantage of. They have tested and production-ready tools. When you go through the example, you'll work with their software, and it'll make it very easy for you to envision how you can get your next Bluetooth product and its device data to the cloud fast. What really sets Goliath apart is your white glove approach. And what I mean by that is trying to tackle this problem of being connected to the cloud is a big task. Sometimes when you engage partners, you don't quite get the assistant that you're looking for. And I've heard from customers we engage with that when they work with Goliath, you guys really help them understand the challenges, and you make sure that their projects and their products get to market on a reasonable timeline. Chris and Jonathan, I think we just scratched the surface today. Chris, you started talking about several other opportunities with Goliath that can be enabled. I think the example we'll put in the App Code Hub just touches on the first part, but I think we should definitely explore the OTA application and some of the more advanced services that you just brought up. You guys open for collaborating in the future?
Of course. Yeah, definitely.
All right, well, we'll get more of those examples in the Application Code Hub and have you guys back for another episode.
Thanks so much for having us here.
Yeah, it was fun.
Thank you both for being here. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an Edgeverse TechCast. Again, thank you, Jonathan and Chris, for joining us today. We appreciate your time and sharing your knowledge with us.
All right, well, thanks again for listening, everyone. And until next time, keep innovating, go give Goliath a gander, and we'll catch you on the next Edgeverse TechCast.